Hey, it's Pastor Mike. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to encourage you to check out our other Time of Grace podcasts, like this one, The Non-Microwaved Truth by C.L. Whiteside. CL just has an amazing way to bring fresh perspective to some of my favorite passages from the Bible. You can search for The Non-Microwaved Truth wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And now on to today's episode.
What is an unexpected gift that you've received in your life? My sister actually won a Corvette from a radio station. Like, who does that? Who gets a Corvette from a radio station? But my sister did. True story. My wife and I were gifted a cruise. Friends of ours of our church in Florida heard we had never been on a cruise. They said, we got to fix that. And they paid for everything. Amazing gift. True story. There is a couple at Cana who ran out of wine. And this person at the wedding gave them an incredible volume, a huge amount of the finest tasting wine that people had ever tasted. True story. Throughout this series, we've been looking at this account of Jesus being at the wedding at Cana, and we've been looking at things that just don't always make sense. I got one left. Sometimes what doesn't make sense is just how good your incredible God is. See, when Jesus gives a gift, he gives it in full measure. I mean, he brings it. And what's confusing about that is, why? Like, why would God love me? Why would God, of all the human beings on the entire planet, why would he care individually about me? I know my sins. I know my wrongs. I know that what I've done, and so do you. So why would God individually love us? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would Jesus care about this couple and the fact that they ran out of wine? But he did. And when Jesus gave them that gift, it was exceptionally valuable. In our video yesterday, I told you that the 6 stone jars that were filled up to the brim with water that Jesus later turns into some of the finest tasting wine out there, that was 150 gallons of wine. I did a little bit of research, and by the way, that comes out to, are you ready for this? 750 bottles, standard size bottles of wine. Some of the finest tasting. So is this $30 a bottle, 50, 75, 100? I mean, think about how much value this is, 750 bottles of wine. By the way, if you put that in cases, and you stacked it up, it'd be 4 stories tall. Now, again, think about the logistics on this and this incredible gift that Jesus chooses to give. They ran out of wine, which means this weekish long celebration of this wedding has been raging for some time. They're almost out of time on the wedding. They didn't need that much wine. But Jesus can't help but be generous because that is who he is. Which means the leftover wine they could have sold, they could have lived off. God gives, and he gives generously. And I'm suspecting when you look in the history of your life, there's times where God has done some marvelous things, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in big ways. And he uses the hearts of generous people who love him to then love you in his name. When I was a kid growing up, I very much remember in the early 80s, there was this big insurance thing that happened, and a lot of farmers were losing their farms. And my family was very close to losing literally the family farm. And a loved one gave us a check. And because of that, God used that to bless us to literally save the family farm. God works in generous ways through generous people. I've heard of other people that have had their whole tuition paid for in school, brand new car given to this person, a house being bought. I mean, amazing acts of generous kindness that come from the name of God, through God's people, to God's people. And you've been blessed even more than that. Even more than a new house or a new car or vacation or Corvette off of a radio station. You've got the love of Christ, the God of the universe, who cherishes you, who gives you what you need whenever you need it. The book of Psalms gives us this encouragement. This is Psalm 107. It says, "For he," that's God, "satisfies the thirsty and fills the hungry with good things." He satisfied literally the thirst of the people at this wedding at Cana by giving them in a generous way. And God satisfies you. Thirst for him, hunger for him and more of his love. And God, who gives, will give generously of who he is to you in forgiveness, because that is just who God is.